Hare Krishna Ji devotees, welcome and thank you for joining this session. We'll give everyone a couple more, like a minute or so. We see that they're still deciding and finding their way to the appropriate breakout room. So we'll just give everybody like a minute. So this is from Malati Prabhu. Let's see. Are you able to hear us? Hear me?
Yes, hear you well. And I just want to let you know that the devotees are having trouble figuring out how to get in the groups.
Yeah, that usually takes some time because the way it gives the options, it's not that straightforward. You have to kind of skim through all the names. Yeah, we see there's still 24 devotees who are still looking for a way to go to one of the rooms.
Thank you so much for doing this. This is going to be hugely beneficial.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so.
The CPO has done very little fundraising over the years, aside from whatever management provides. And it's so much needed. And this year is the year that we're aiming to set up an endowment to establish sustained funding so that I can bring on full-time staff and keep them going year after year.
Yeah, that's one of the things that you mentioned earlier. It's actually hard to raise funds for a specific project like CPO. But if you say you're building a new temple, everybody wants to rush in.
Sure.
It is a tough one. And it is tough because the scriptures are full of all kinds of references on benefits of building a temple. Anybody gives even a little bit to the temple, his place in Vaikuntha is guaranteed. So many things like that. Very few, at least I know, of Sanskrit references about Child Protection Office. So very few. I mean, which is zero. So
maybe we'll have to focus on the temple in the heart.
Yes.
I really hope what you're saying will come true to the new Gopal Dham in Vancouver.
Jai.
Yeah, Jai. And I strongly support Leela Sukha's efforts to, and I know she's been trying. I know you've been trying for years and years to get temples to be compliant, reaching out. But I hope that every single leader who is attending this session at least makes a really strong commitment in their heart that they must earn that award by this year. 2023, everybody who's here in this whole conference should have that award by the end of this year, or by this year some point, as early as possible. Okay.
Well, with your wife's help, I think so.
Yeah. Okay, so here we go. I think we have, let's see, there's only a few who are unassigned, so I think we're good to go. I'm going to get started now. I see the only unassigned devotees are some of our conference coordinators, so I'm going to get started. So thank you once again. I think I'm going to just speak for a short time, and then we're going to open it up. I'll speak for maybe, I think we have almost an hour, but most of that time I'm hoping that we'll have some live interactions and discussion. So I'm just going to dive right into it. Okay, so let's see. I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, so this is a summary of what we're going to talk about. I already went over that. So like Srila Prabhupada says, every endeavor requires land, capital, organization, and labor. Just as in business, one requires a place to stay, some capital to use, some labor, and some organization to expand. So the same is required in the service of Krishna. The only difference is that in materialism, one works for sense gratification. The same work, however, can be performed for the satisfaction of Krishna, and that is spiritual activity. If one has sufficient money, he can help in building an office or temple for propagating Krishna consciousness, or he can help with publications. So this is actually in the purport of Bhagavad Gita, 12th chapter, right? So This is a letter to Giriraj Swami. Prabhupada says, it is my intelligence and your cooperation that is working. There is a story of a man who was challenged whether he had any intelligence. Then he began to look in his pocket. When asked why he was looking in his pocket, he replied, if there is money, then there is intelligence. So you have gone so far to collect money and intelligently, but if there is no money, where is intelligence? Both must combine. Then everything works out. Okay, let's see. This letter to Giriraj Swami. So here you can see having money is correlated, Prabhupada is correlating it with intelligence. And we also think like that, like if we hear that somebody is self-made millionaire, self-made billionaire, he or she must be really, really smart. I mean, it's not easy to make money, and that they made so much money in such a little time. There must be some super intelligence, some empowerment. So generally that's the case. Of course, some people just get lucky, but in general, we admire their intelligence in making a successful, initiative and enterprise. So what is fundraising? So this is the definition. This is like a formal definition. It's a nonprofit organization with a vision and a mission, leadership and volunteers, providing a much needed service in the community, asking others to join them in their crusade. So if we have a clear mission and vision, then we can have everybody rally around us and we can communicate that, then we'll be successful. Now, what it is not is also important to understand. Fundraising is not begging. It's not like the beggars in the street. We're not beggars. It is not like a sales job, that we're doing it for a commission and it's something selfish. It is not confrontational. It's not like some high pressure thing. We have to go out and fight a war. We should not necessarily see it like, such a, win-lose kind of situation that, we're going to try to take away money and make them miserable. No. It is not also a one-way conversation. It's not that, okay, we just keep yapping and then the other person just stays quiet and takes out money and gives it to us. That's not what it is. Okay. So what are some of Srila Prabhupada's techniques? He did approach prominent potential donors, big business people. He wrote to them, he tried to set up meetings and so on, tried to get his devotees to meet them. The Birlas, Dalmia, these are the great industrialists in India at the time. Sumati Morarji, of course, she funded his journey to America, So he approached them for donation. We know the story of how much he struggled getting the ticket to come to America. So that was, those are some of the ways he did. He emphasized sales of books, and he was very happy and proud that a lot of our big temples in India are based or built on the foundation of the book sales that are happening in Australia and Europe and North America back in Prabhupada's time. Then he also encouraged businesses. He had restaurant business, that opened Govinda's incense business was also there. So it has to be related somewhat, at least somewhat, to Krishna consciousness. Life membership program and donations from the working devotees. Many devotees in the early days who joined Srila Prabhupada, they would still remain working outside, but give their whole paycheck to Srila Prabhupada. So of course today in ISKCON, it's a different system where it's congregational, but still a lot of our support comes from our congregational devotees who give a percentage of their income. So what are the things that are barriers? One is fear of failure. We have these fears that, we're going to go out, we'll spend so much time and effort and energy, and it's nothing going to come out of it. There's a lack of experience. That's a real thing. We are afraid of failure, especially because we don't have any experience. And of course, there is that discomfort asking for money. How will I look? It just looks so bad. I'll do other things. I'll do any other seva, but don't make me ask for money. Don't make me do that. It's a very tough thing to overcome in our heart. Then we may see that this fundraising effort is like a whole separate thing. It's nothing to do with actual ISKCON, nothing to do with the deities, nothing to do with Krishna. It's almost like it's not connected, but that's another reason why it's a psychological barrier, why we have to, see it properly. So what are some of the qualities of a fundraiser? So I got a lot of this information, by the way, from His Grace Devkinandan Prabhu of Juhu, who is the GBC Global Minister for Fund Development and Fundraising. And he has personally come and helped us here in New Jersey raise substantial amount of funds. He also helped many other North American projects. He was involved in helping Columbus and Chicago, although he has a very So he's involved, he travels over North America and all over the world to share a lot of his experiences. He has personally raised many millions of dollars for ISKCON. So this is some of the points that he has shared with me. So fundraising doesn't depend on expert tricks, but it depends on our Krishna consciousness. So a successful fundraiser attends a full morning program. He or she reads Prabhupada's books regularly and socializes with donors. It means they have a knack for connecting with donors. You see, socialization with non-devotees is a strong poison that can be neutralized by strong sadhana. You know how it says association affects you, we have to choose our association. When we socialize with those who are not devotees, but we have some feeling that they may want to give, it will impact us, whether we like it or not, in a subtle way. And so we have to neutralize some of the subtle negativity or materialism that may come into our heart with strong spiritual practices. We should just assume that we're being affected by it. Never think, it's not going to affect me. Always strengthen our own spiritual life. It's very important.
I used them last week. There was 2 tomatoes there last week.
So Dāsa Prabhu, you're not muted.
Sorry.
Okay, I'm just gonna have to, okay, there you go. And so Shavas Prabhu used 2 tomatoes last week. Okay, before fundraising comes, friend raising. We have to raise friends. We can't just assume that, okay, the first time we meet somebody, they'll take out their paycheck. Okay, so friend raising is important. That comes first, all right? The people are primary. People means donors don't give money to causes. We may think that's the cause that'll drive them. They give to people who follow a cause. This is an important point. If we are the point person for ISKCON and we're raising funds, that person will see me as the person, and that person will most likely gauge the movement and the project based on what he sees in me. Therefore, that person will be giving to me because I have this cause, not directly to the cause necessarily. You see, successful fundraisers develop personal relationships with donors. That's important. Successful fundraisers look at the heart, not at the pocket. Means, you want to try to develop a relationship in the sense that open a pathway that we can give Krishna to them. You see, whether they give or not later on, but look at the heart of the person. Successful fundraisers remember the donor after receiving the donation. Remember means, keep in touch, thank them again and again, get in touch with them after a month or 2, whatever it is, keep them in touch, know their birthdays, anniversaries, and so on, reach out to them in those important times. This is not that difficult to do, but we forget that. Successful fundraisers make sure the donor receives spiritual care, because they have given something. So we shouldn't be happy that, I gave them some books and a calendar and some incense and that's it. No, we should now take it upon ourselves to find, very personal ways to make sure that person gets Krishna in his or her life, you see. Successful fundraisers know that where the money goes, the mind goes, if that person is given money somewhere, their mind will inevitably go to that project. They might check up on it. How is this project going and so on? How, I donated, so you're going to build this extension. How's that working out? And this way they'll end up thinking of Krishna. You see. Now, this is an interesting aphorism that I found is quite effective. If you want money, ask for advice. And if you want advice, ask for money. You see, and you'll find this is true. If you ask somebody, we need this much money, and they're like, oh, you know what? Let me tell you how you can do it. They'll give all their advice, but they won't want to give money. But if you want advice, then ask for money. See, so we ask for their advice. Okay, we're stuck in this project. These are some of the difficulties, supply chain issues, and then we have an issue with this particular contractor. What do you think? And you keep bugging them for advice and how we can raise funds. At some point, they might even get tired of giving advice and say, why don't you just take this money? So that also works, especially when they have to tax their brains a lot. We get benefit. We get some good pointers from them. And then eventually, because they've given so much advice and they see that person just needs a little more money, they will give money, you see. So find the purpose, means will follow. There's no scarcity of money and donors. There's a scarcity of receivers, good receivers. The donors are devtas. They're always up. Their hand is up. The receiver's hand is down. So they get that feeling. The receiver should be strong in spirituality, spiritual practice. The money is taken on behalf of Lord Krishna. So we don't want to take credit. We're giving everything to Krishna, including the money. So what are some reasons that donors give? To make a difference, to share good fortune, that they have some money, they want to give back to the community, they want to express their beliefs, their feelings, they want to invest in a worthy cause, they want to show respect for the person who asked. That's why it's actually very good if the leader of your project or temple, whatever, president, and whoever the top leaders, if that person goes, it's very powerful. It goes to meet big donors or potential donors. To join with others who are contributing. They see, oh, all my friends are contributing, I'll also give. To gain positive association with ISKCON. ISKCON is a global brand, and they'll be happy to give it because they've heard that it's successful all over the world. And of course, they'll get their tax benefits. So why do some people not give? Okay, so this way I'll open this to our panel, to our attendees here. What do you think is the top reason? Anybody?
They may be having another institutions where they are attached, so they don't want to give to ISKCON.
Okay. Anybody else?
Because
Financial difficulties?
Financial difficulties? Anyone else?
No interest.
they're not asked enough time.
Yes, they are not asked. That is the major reason. We didn't bother to ask them. You see, that's the reason. I feel it's a kind of like a trick question, but we don't approach them. We have so many to approach. We just don't approach them. Somebody else approaches them. So other reasons, but that was the top reason. One is that they're unmotivated by the cause, or we weren't very effective in soliciting interest. They weren't properly informed. Maybe they have some negative information or experience with ISKCON. And of course, a man convinced against his will is the same opinion still. So he's just not convinced. That's fine. So what are some important steps? Okay, find contacts. Find the who's and who's who of your local area. Fix an appointment. Reach out to them, make an appointment. And then, of course, be on time, bring some Mahaprasad and gifts, ask how are you, ask about their family, become friends. We have to, it's a little bit of a skill to be friends with donors and learn about their business, read about them before you go there. Say they're head of a company or a big executive, learn about the company and the history, and then maybe you can talk intelligently about it. They'll be interested to know that you did some research on them. Then integrate the philosophy and talk about Prabhupada, talk about ISKCON, and then, of course, try to continue the relationship, follow-up meeting, and develop a personal relationship. Then you invite them to the temple. See, so 2 meetings and then a temple. And once they're in the temple, you make sure that we give them attention, darshan, charnamrit, garlands, so many things, right? Govindas if you have a restaurant, or some nice prasadam for sure. Then you walk them through the project, introduce them to the leaders, talk about the GBC and hierarchy and so on. Then when do you ask for money? You ask when the donor asks, what can I do for you? Or if there's some opportunity or some big event, you see. So you keep a proposal ready. You see, you have a nice brochure for your project, what you're raising funds for, and they may ask, how much should they give, right? Never give an answer with the figure that, you should give $5,000, it'd be very nice. Don't do that. We should never do that. What we should say is, these are our needs. It's a $7 million project. Our pocket. Oh, your pocket, our needs. So please do the best you can. That's it. Let them set the amount they want to give, you see. So there's a contrast if you beg or you inspire, right? So if you beg, if you give a begging vibe, then the person gives a limited amount only when asked. They may feel offended. They might give first to avoid being asked, and they may develop some kind of grudge. I don't feel like giving again. But if you inspire them with a positive experience, then they'll give more often and more generously. They'll feel appreciated, and they will appreciate us. They'll give heartily and happily, and they'll remain friendly with our people, with our cause. They might end up becoming practicing devotees also. We've seen that too. Okay. So don't ask for money, encourage people to give. This is like an encouragement. It's very positive, very mature, a very sober and sattvic approach that we want to give. Okay, so there's some 10 things. These are some modern things. I'm going to really skim through these. I'm not going to share all this, but your leaders need to be on the same page about fundraising. This goes without saying. The leaders need to be the face of that effort. And then success in fundraising takes a long-term consistent effort. There's no silver bullet that, okay, I need to raise 3 million in the next 2 weeks. I must do it, otherwise everything will fail. This doesn't work that way. We know that, right? There's very few cases where we can make quick money like that. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes consistency in communication, and it takes a lot of hard work in that sense. And investing in fundraising makes money for you. It's a profit center, not a cost center. So we have to spend money to make money. You know, a very nice brochure that we've developed, it cost us thousands of dollars. I mean, that brochure cost us $5 each to print, but we had thousands of copies, and they're so impressive. It makes a big difference, you know. So working with major donors is one of the top ways. Okay, you'll find that, you know, you'll have, for a few big donors, you'll have to put a lot of energy in that. All right. It's backed up. It's an effort backed up with time-tested results. You know, if you follow the system, it will work. Just have to give it time. It requires help and support from everyone in the organization. A lot of teamwork required. Okay, we have to find ways to get the whole congregation excited about it. And it is not about making a pitch to a donor, not just one pitch. You have to be consistently developing a relationship, a conversation. See, so that's important. And of course, retaining your current donors is very important. It takes a lot more effort to make a new donor. It's only relatively marginally less effort to retain your current donors. So strengthen your existing relationship, all right? And donor communications, you must invest in it. Have some nice system. There's some nice electronic systems out there, computer systems that help you maintain your donors' relationship with that. One good one is called Breeze management system. There's another one called Donor Perfect. You know, you can choose which one works for you. And now, you know, major gifts are more available now than ever. You know, this is considered the golden age of major gift fundraising. You know, huge tax benefits, a lot of big organizations giving. They're raising billions and billions. Why? Because they have managed to create a very good relationship with their donors. You know, we just have to find them, these donors. All right. And then these are just some considerations. If you're building a new temple, I'll just skim through this because not all of you are building a new temple. But if you are, see if you can do smart phasing. We're doing phasing in this one. We're building the main core first. We're finishing that first. So we start operating, and then the side wings will develop later. You know, financing options, you know, see if you can get some loans from donors and things like that. Make your design functional. See if you can find new construction technologies. There's like 3D printing and whatnot, and eco trends that impresses some donors too. So I'm going to pause here with my presentation. I know I breezed through it because time is very tight. I hope you got some of that through, but I'm hoping that we can take this time to have our own discussion on some of these very important points. And perhaps these questions may seed the discussion. Why do longtime members and working devotees not give generously? And how can we start an ISKCON-wide culture of giving? You know, so those are some of the questions. Before I start this, I just want to share that in our fundraising for this temple, somehow by Krishna's mercy, the congregation has really become inspired and fired up about it. You know, we wanted to do a mail out to 5,000 recipients, okay, 5,000, and with individual addresses, labels, and we only had a couple hours to do 5,000. So we just, you know, brought all the envelopes and the pages, and we took them to a Sunday feast. And after the Sunday feast, at least 40 or 45 devotees just sat at the tables and helped us. And within an hour, we were done with like thousands, you know, and the postage was put in and everything. And we mailed it the very next day. And from that, we got so many people who came to our fundraising event. So if we can get our congregation excited, then many hands make light work. That was a huge success. And now when we go door to door to invite people, we have so many volunteers. We have teams. We have 13 teams of 2 or 3 people each to go and just go into a neighborhood and spread the word, knocking doors. But that requires a culture of excitement. And we had a whole program on how to raise that excitement too. So we can talk about that. All right. I have the first hand, Malti Prabhu, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question and a comment. So the question is, are there some ethics regarding fundraising? And I'm asking this question because I see that there are often fundraising events where they are presenting things that are not really something I would do in front of Srila Prabhupada. Like last night, I came upon one such event. I'm embarrassed to say it was like, I won't say which temple, but it's in my zone. And it was I know some of these people in this, it was a live stream, but I could not relate to what was going on. It was just weird. So are there some ethics that we as ISKCON representatives should be following and should be aware of?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And it comes up, it's actually part of a larger development, or you can say trend, that we've noticed in North America. And we have to be very, very careful on how closely, how close we want to align with Srila Prabhupada standards. We have to make a commitment to those. Would Srila Prabhupada be pleased with this particular presentation, with the particular promises we're giving, or the flavor of how we're representing ISKCON? We have to, at least I strongly believe that we should do everything that'll please Prabhupada, that we should not do anything that'll displease Srila Prabhupada, that'll misrepresent the message. Some of our temples have, what happens is that the leader may give charge to a particular congregation member. Okay, you're in charge of the stage program, you run with it. Now that person who's in charge may not understand the details. Therefore, the leader has to then also evaluate and filter the messages that are going out in the name of ISKCON for fundraising. Like I remember there was one message that went out from one temple that, okay, if you do this in the Shinga Yagya, then you will benefit tremendously, your business will do well, and you'll make a lot of money. That's not our message, but somehow that message went out. But later
it's becoming our message.
No, but the thing is, it shouldn't. But then
Right.
when it came to the attention of the leader, he immediately shut it down. He's like, what is this? I expected at least you guys should understand this basic thing. So that it was retracted. It was removed from the website. So our leaders should be on top of it. They should also be monitoring it. And so that mistake was corrected very quickly, which is great. So in terms of ethics, we look to our leaders, and if we are concerned and want, it's not clear, let's reach out to our GBC. GBC's main job is to make sure things are going on nicely, in line with Srila Prabhupada's mood and mission.
The other thing is a bit of a comment, but it's something I have observed over the past 20 plus years. I call it the my donor phenomena. So you are talking correctly so about developing a relationship with people who are then very happy to give to you as but this morphs into the my donor, people taking ownership, and nobody else can talk to that person. And I've seen this happen. I've seen the primary fundraiser run up and separate an innocent donor from a devotee who was just talking to him about Krishna and say, this is my donor. And I really don't like that. So I would like to hear that this is, I don't know, maybe you think it's okay, but I don't.
Well, you see, this particular phenomenon of my donor has pros and cons, as with everything. Okay. If I have developed a relationship with a particular person and have understood that person really well and know that, okay, they shouldn't, we should emphasize this particular aspect of movement and so on. And if I see somebody new talking to that person, and if that new person, for example, I've talked to a donor about that, we in America are very liberal in ISKCON, and we encourage both men and women to serve equally, and we give in Prabhupada's mood, we give equal access to all women in terms of pujari services. Now, if a new person who I know is a traditionalist and who really perhaps wants to emphasize that no, women should only be staying in the house and stuff, and he starts talking to that donor like that, I'll not be too happy, because he's not representing that aspect that that donor believes in. So we have to also see on both sides. We have to be really careful on who talks to whom, what. So it's very nuanced. I hope you understand what I'm saying, Malti Prabhu.
I do, but I feel like if you've given a good presentation and the temple you represent is showing its colors in the proper way, some itinerant person saying something that might be contrary should not be rocking the boat.
Exactly. So we should be careful like that, but at the same time, we shouldn't be so, overprotective that not even protective, possessive. Possessive,
Controlling of- yeah.
right. Controlling and possessive. This is my person. Nobody should talk to that person. We should not be that way either. I agree with you. So
Madana-gopāla, just want to mention there's about 5 minutes left and you have 2 other
couple
questions.
hands. Yes. Okay. Is that okay? We'll go to the next. We have Jagannath Mishra Prabhu, followed by Nandini in Shanagati. Go ahead, Jagannath Mishra.
Prabhu, thank you for your presentation. So just wanted to make a comment. I guess it's both a local problem and a global problem in ISKCON with fundraising. Locally in Toronto, we have many yatras. So when we try to raise locally in our small temple, then just to Malti's Prabhu's point is that, a donor gets targeted by multiple temples. So question is, how do we address that point? And then globally, I mean, there's 10 different projects going on. There's ISKCON, there's a cow project, there's TOP, and the same people are coming to the same donor asking for Lakshmi. And then locally, you're trying to build your own temple. So I'd like your views on that, Madana-gopāla Prabhu. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a very good question. Actually, I'd like to defer this to Anuttama Prabhu because he has actually navigated, I mean, at least that zone has navigated through this similar issue where we had Baltimore and Potomac, both running almost parallel projects, but they came to some kind of agreement or worked something out. Maybe Anuttama Prabhu can shed some light on how you manage that.
Yeah, I can just comment on that real quickly. I think it was based on the fact that there was a lot of open communications. I mean, Baltimore and Washington, D.C. are about 35 minutes away. And there's people that go to both. There's people that live closer to Washington and go to Baltimore. There's people who live in Baltimore, go to Washington, D.C. And there really just was a sense of, hey, these are not my donors. These are devotees of Krishna. And some people are going to be inspired to give in D.C. Some people are going to be inspired to give in Baltimore. Some people are going to give both. So I think just a sense of, it was a real effort to not be envious of each other. And to feel that, that it's their money, it's Krishna's money, and whoever, can inspire them with their various projects, let's encourage that. And I think both communities were very generous and broad-minded and seeing that, okay, there's somebody who lives in DC, but he wants to give $100,000 to Baltimore. That's fantastic. That's wonderful. He's inspired to do that. And, when we do our project, hopefully he'll want to contribute here, but ultimately it's up to Krishna. So that's just a quick reflection on that. I think it takes some broad-mindedness and as Malati was saying, not thinking he's my donor because he lives in my geographical area.
Right. Or
There's one other thing. I know years ago when devotees first started doing fundraising research, I remember a presentation, the average Catholic, and maybe Hindus do even more than this or whatever, Vaishnavas, 23 organizations on a year, the average Catholic person donates to. So we shouldn't think, if they give to DC, they can't give to Baltimore. If they give to the TOPP, they can't give to Baltimore. We shouldn't think like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. That's great. Okay, we
Well,
have
it's very much a part of the Christian culture.
Right.
I grew up Catholic, and that is a huge thing to take care of people.
Yeah, and multiple. There'll be many people who will give to multiple organizations. It's definitely a thing. We can.
You still got 2 more people asking questions.
Yep. So we have Nandini followed by Lal Gopal. Go ahead, Nandini.
Hare Krishna. Just wondering if you could just give a few ideas on successful events that you've held.
Okay, I'll just give you an example. This last year, we do about 4 to 5 fundraisers a year. Okay, and usually you start in like July and go on all the way to December, and we do once a month. And that Janmashtami event that we did, we raised close to, between that Janmashtami fundraiser and our Janmashtami in the temple, we raised about $600,000, 2 events, okay, for this new temple. Now, how do we do it? We identify certain neighborhoods which are, or geographically, and there tend to be donors, and we then go door to door. We write up a nice invitation letter, color one, and we rent a hall, a beautiful hall, like a banquet hall, and then we have a stage program, and we invite about, say, 5,000 people, out of which 5,000 people, we get about maybe 300 attendees, okay? And we fill the hall, and we do a 3-hour program, 1 hour of, like half an hour kirtan. We do a little some skits, and then we do some presentation, what ISKCON is about, how it'll benefit you and your community. And then we spend about an hour appealing to them, why they should give. And then one after another, people say, they'll give 5,000, 10,000. But some of these, I'll give you an example. There's one gentleman who is like a temple president of another Hindu organization, completely different, not ISKCON, but he came. And he's still not been to our temple, but he stood up and gave $100,000 on the spot because he's impressed with ISKCON. Not just that, it wasn't just that though. I had been giving a Bhagavad Gita class to his congregation for 6 months every Sunday. So you see, if we do Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, and I just did it for free for his congregation and his people, and it was like 80 people coming every Sunday. I was giving a 2-hour Bhagavad Gita class for like 6 to 8 months. And this is the way he reciprocated. He chose to reciprocate with the one big donation. So what I'm saying is find ways to make connections, to give Prabhupada to others. They will find ways to reciprocate, and we can always give them an opportunity. So we do this. This is kind of how we do it. We knock on doors, we have fundraisers, and then people come and give. Just a quick example.
And we just got the 2-minute notice.
All right. So Madana-gopāla Prabhu, you're muted.
Thank you, Prabhu. This was a great presentation. I think I got a partial answer for my question in just what you just said now, but still I'm going to go ahead and ask this question. This is in relation to Jagannath Mishra's Prabhu's question, which is an extension of that question. You are giving an example of Baltimore and Washington, D.C., but my question is, how do you involve the local different organization, people who are attached to different organization, not necessarily ISKCON. It could be ISKCON, and many project goes on within the city. Many people are trying to build temples.
Yeah.
They have their own things, but how it's going to be the same people we have to target, unfortunately.
Yeah. So right, exactly. Good question. It's that we give our flagship product. Flagship product is Prabhupada. Prabhupada's unique philosophy, and everybody knows Bhagavad Gita is the top. ISKCON's Bhagavad Gita is a top seller. So ISKCON's presentation of Bhagavad Gita is the clearest. If we find ways to put posters in the temple, maybe even go to the temple and give a class sometimes. We do that too. It works. Some of our people have done that. So that's one example. But I think we need to find creative ways to give Prabhupada to others and so on. So please find ways. And some of the other questions, if we want to make money very quickly, how to do it. There are ways. We raised 1.9 million to buy the land in 3 months, but that we did by inspiring of course we feed fantastic prasadam at their events. But we invited our core congregation that, look, we need to buy this land. And so if you like, you can give a loan, interest-free loan, we'll pay you back after 6 or 7 years. And so we really raised 1.9 million. Some of our devotees gave 50,000 loans, some of them gave 100,000. Some devotees took out a loan on their home to give a loan to the temple. So how did that happen? I learned from our communications course how to make that happen. Communication says, understand the needs, interests, and concerns of your congregation. If you want to have everybody go door-to-door knocking, make sure that there's a pizza party after that door-to-door knocking session. Make sure there's going to be kirtan together at someone's house. Make sure there's going to be a presentation, how to knock, how to talk to people, how to smile, give them cookies before you go, and then cookies and hot tea before you go, and pizza party afterwards. Then you'll see 35, 50 people from your congregation come with their children to go door to door. Make a festival of everything, but learn their needs, interests, and concerns. If you make that a priority, you will see that it's not difficult to enthuse your own devotees to do it.
Hare Krishna, everybody. Welcome back. I was able to join the fundraising presentation for a short time. I didn't get a chance to jump around to Ajita's, but I know I've heard Ajita give presentations in the past. I'm sure it was very exciting and informative. I know in the fundraising group, nobody wanted to leave. We had an option, push the blue button and you can go back, and everybody stayed to 51 seconds, 49 seconds, 47 seconds. Very, very helpful. I want to give each of our two presenters a chance just to maybe summarize. We've got about 5 minutes, just 3 quick things you'd like to reinforce with the people you've spoken to, or those who didn't hear from you. What are the 3 takeaways you'd like them to know?
Okay, I'll just go first. Ajita Prabhu looks like he's waiting. Okay, 3 quick things. Learn the needs, interests, and concerns of your own congregation and the donors or potential donors you're approaching. The more you're in tune with what they're looking for, the more you'll be able to touch their hearts, the more you'll be able to inspire them, because everybody wants to give. And we have the product, we have Srila Prabhupada and everything Prabhupada taught. So if the more we aligned with that, the more successful we'll be with our fundraising ventures, our fundraising programs, and so on. And let us give up a fear of reaching out to people, because we are giving them an opportunity to be Krishna conscious. And so whether it's fundraising, whether it's sharing anything else in Krishna consciousness, we have to just be aligned with that message. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Great. Ajita Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Sorry, I went a little longer than expected, that it was cut off right in the middle of my presentation. But what I was just ending with was, now that we know how to stop them, how to, from scrolling, we understand what it takes to get them to like us, build trust, communicate, and, all of this comes in just being social, being likable for, virtually, and being relevant. So I'll just quickly share my screen. So if anybody wants to ask questions, they can schedule a 15-minute session by going to avilaroy.com/contact or WhatsApp this number, or connect with me on social media. I'm the only Avila Roy in this entire world. So I'll be happy to take your questions and guide you through it. And if you need any help with social media, I have a team that can help you as well. And I'm very sorry I took longer than expected, but I'm glad you guys liked it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and Madana-gopāla has his contact information also there in the chat. And I know the devotees that attended the fundraising presentation, it really was excellent. There was a lot of questions about, well, what do you do? People are being, multiple donors are asking them at the same time, and how are they going to remain inspired? So there was a lot of very practical discussions also in the fundraising discussion about that. And I want to especially thank Ajita because he's talking to us from Calcutta. So right now it's 11 o'clock at night, if I'm doing the math properly.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, much appreciated. And thanks to both of you. So on behalf of everybody, our Dandavats and our gratitude, really very, very practical presentations. And I think one thing really, Sunnivan, these are examples. I'm looking at Trua courses. It was really as a member of my generation who really showed how to get things done with starting with nothing, following the footsteps of Brigham Young. He went to Utah with nothing and, built the beautiful temple. We see them in the background. He's got the biggest, holy events in the whole world, etc. And I just want to mention that Ajita and Madana-gopāla are examples, and so many of the devotees that presented here. We have levels of expertise and ability and capacities that our movement did not have the first 1 or 2 or 5 or 10 or 20 or maybe even 30 years. We had a lot of inspiration, a lot of very smart people, a lot of people willing to sacrifice their lives, which we still do. But in addition to that, there are devotees with tremendous levels of expertise, and we should all be in the habit of taking advantage of that, because it really is a wealth of Prabhupada's movement, and it's exciting. I'll just mention, sometimes I give seminars of this, that, and a lot of times young people will say something like, I wish I was there in the pioneering years. And I'm always so stunned when they say that, because they think, what are you talking about? The first 500 years from now are going to be the pioneering years. And there's just practically unlimited things that can be done to spread Krishna consciousness. It's not like we've become so big, there's this huge government bureaucracy. You can't move without checking with 8 different agencies to see who's already got it going. So we have tremendous opportunity for progress and expanding our movement, and wonderful resources too. So Ajita and Madana-gopāla, we are 2 examples of those resources. Thank you. And thank you for making yourselves available to others. We're grateful for that.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Prabhu, I wanted to ask, Ajita Prabhu didn't get to finish his presentation, so I felt like hanging, like what's going on?
Okay, Ajita, can't have you finish it here. What do they do to get the rest?
Like I said, we can schedule a one-on-one session. I'll tell you what I was going to say is basically every temple can hire a social media manager or have a social media manager. And I'll just share the last screen that I couldn't share. It might benefit everyone. Just give me like 30 seconds, Anutama Prabhu. I'm sorry.
Oh, you got it. No problem.
Yeah, that's the last slide basically that I couldn't share. So these are the tasks for the social media manager. Have them take pictures and videos, encourage devotees to take selfies, share content that the temple is creating, and on a weekly basis, have a schedule of content, right? Video, images, quotes, social media, lives, and have a certain keywords and hashtags so that people can find you. The Hare Krishna temple in Houston, or Hare Krishna temple in Chicago, or wherever you are, have certain hashtags and keywords that you want to be found for. And that's the kind of person you're looking for. Somebody who is basically, have human emotions, knows how to use power words, resourceful, adaptive, basically a social butterfly. That's a slide that I couldn't present. Thank you, Prabhu.
Vedasar, are you happy now, Prabhu? We can't move on if you're not happy.
You're muted.
You're muted.
There's a small part of me that wanted to see him go through another 3 more minutes of the last bit of his presentation. But if the Vaishnavas want to move on, then I just go with the flow.
Veda, you can contact him. He won't give you 3 minutes. He'll give you 15 minutes. 15 minutes. And I think also we're making notes as we go through. We mentioned in the beginning, Kaladri Prabhu, over the year, based on a lot of topics that were brought up here, organized specific Zoom conferences. I think at GT you did one last year, if I remember correctly. So I'm sure that, GT can be in touch with Kaladri and Kumar and can organize specific events. We're going to call the next one Vedasara Continued. Okay, you already got a really catchy name for the next one that Jita is going to organize. But in all seriousness, Veda, there'll be follow-ups. We, because of the limited time, we may not get into all the details, but definitely there will be additional follow-ups. Okay, so, and I know Jita is very, very generous with his time. This is not a one-off. He'll talk to us once and he's too busy. He's very, very generous with his time.
We can do like 2-hour sessions maybe later on, and have a 2-hour session. These are probably going to be interactive 2-hour session on fundraising. We can also do, and this way we can do very slowly and deeply. I think it'll benefit, and it can be to the whole audience who's attended here and whoever wants to come. So we can do that.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I'm not married, so I have a lot of time.
I'm married, so I have even more time.
Okay, so we have one infomercial, very important one. Before we take our break, we're actually scheduled for lunch at 12:40. So we may need a minute or two longer than that, but let's see if we can finish up on time. Radha Bhakti Dāsa is here to talk about the mentorship program that she's worked with and how we can start one at our temple. So Radha Bhakti, I see you're featured on the screen here. We'll turn it over to you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna, everybody. Please accept my most humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. I can't believe I have to follow that and be before lunch. This is the worst possible position you could have put me in, Kumari. Thank you so much. She's my sister-in-law, so I'm allowed to make fun of her. May